Big Ben is London's famous clock tower. It's 150 years old, just under 100 metres tall, and stands at the north end of the Palace of Westminster. The palace was rebuilt in a neo-Gothic style in 1834 after a big fire. It's the seat of Britain's two Houses of Parliament, the Commons and the Lords. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Just opposite the Houses of Parliament is another famous landmark, Westminster Abbey. The Abbey has been the coronation church since 1066, and 17 monarchs are buried here. The present church was started by Henry III in 1245 and is one of the most important Gothic buildings in Britain. The circular building you can see on the map is a theatre called Shakespeare's Globe. This is not the original building. It was rebuilt in 1997, about 230 metres from the original site. The original Globe was built in 1599 by Shakespeare's company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men, but was destroyed by fire on the 29th of June, 1613. You can watch Shakespeare's plays here, performed by the Royal Shakespeare Company. The theatre holds around 300 people, and you can stand and watch in the middle, just as the original audiences did. London became important with the invasion of the Romans in 43 AD and was originally called Londinium. The commander of the Roman troops, Aulus Plautius, needed a bridge to push his armies further north Kent towards Colchester, which was then the most important town in Britain. The Roman advance was halted by the Thames, so Plautius was forced to build a bridge to get his men across. This first London Bridge was recently excavated, only a few metres from the busy and modern London Bridge you can see here. After the Romans left around 410 AD, London went into decline for several centuries. However, its geographical position meant that it attracted considerable attention from outsiders. And in the next 600 years or so, the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, and the Vikings all invaded. By 604, the first Paul's Church had been built in London, on the same site as the famous St. Paul's Cathedral. The Great Fire of 1666 led to a complete rebuilding of London. The work was led by the great architect Christopher Wren, who wanted to build a perfect city. St. Paul's was also rebuilt between 1675 and 1710, after its predecessor was destroyed in the Great Fire of London. This was the first cathedral to be built after the English Reformation in the 16th century, when Henry VIII removed the Church of England from the jurisdiction of the Pope and the Crown took control of the church. There's also a St. Paul's Church in Covent Garden Piazza, another of London's most visited spots. From 1830 to 1914, Covent Garden was London's main fruit and vegetable market. It closed in 1974, but reopened in 1980 with new shops and restaurants. This is Pall Mall, leading from Trafalgar Square to Buckingham Palace, home to the royal family for the last 170 years. These are the Queen's Horse Guards, one of the Queen's official regiments, whose job is to protect the Queen and her properties. The first house to be built on the site was finished in 1624. In 1703, the Duke of Buckingham and Normandy decided to build a much bigger house on the land, and this is still the central part of today's Buckingham Palace. In 1761, Duke sold Buckingham House to George III for just £21,000, and it became a private residence for the royal family. Queen Victoria was the first monarch to live here in 1837, and it's been the official royal residence ever since. Nelson's Column stands in the middle of Trafalgar Square. The column was built between 1840 and 1843 to commemorate Admiral Horatio Nelson's death at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. The granite statue was sculpted by E.H. Bailey. It is 5 meters high and stands on a bronze platform made from old guns. The square itself is a focal point for the city, as roads lead off it in all directions, and it's where people gather for the New Year's celebrations. The big wheel you can see in the background is the Millennium Wheel, or London Eye, as it's also commonly known. Each capsule carries up to 25 people, and the ride takes 30 minutes. You can see most of London from the top. This is the Millennium Bridge joining St Paul's Cathedral to the Tate Modern Museum. It's a good idea to take a boat trip along the Thames. The strange modern building in the background is the Mayor's office. There are many bridges across the Thames, but the most famous is Tower Bridge, built in 1894. It opens up for big boats, and all the car traffic has to stop for about 15 minutes. You can also walk along the top bridge that joins the two towers and get a great view of London. If you keep going east, you arrive in the New Docklands area. The big building in the middle is known as the Gherkin. They've built a new railway line called the Docklands Light Railway to connect it with the rest of London. As there's more space and rents are cheaper than in the centre, there are a lot of big offices and expensive new apartments on the river here. Just think that a few years ago this area was completely derelict. This is Canary Wharf, the main square in the Docklands. The well-known clocks in Canary Wharf are by the German designer Girchik and are based on the iconic Swiss railway clock. However, each face has only one numeral, and they are all set to the same time.